Now for what's tipping the scales of justice in the case against Brad Simpson, the husband accused of murdering his wife, Suzanne. She's also the mother of his 4 children. A Texas judge has now issued a gag order in the case after last week's grand jury indictment of Simpson. This bars anybody involved in the case from speaking about it to the media. Joining us now in the studio to break it all down, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, who's been there. You've traveled there. What can you tell us about this order, please, Cody?
Good morning to you, Julie. Of course, as with any gag order, Bexar County District Court Judge Joel Perez says he is trying to ensure a fair trial and not taint the potential jury pool when the trial begins. Now, the gag order says in part, the court finds that any further interviews, statements, or releases of non-publicly disclosed information contained in discovery to the media would only serve to increase the volume of pretrial publicity. The order goes on to state, the court further finds that no less restrictive means exist to treat the specific threat to the judicial process generated by this pretrial publicity. Now, within the gag order, the court decided anyone involved in the case may not discuss anything regarding the case to the media. This includes all attorneys and their staff, law enforcement, and witnesses who have provided statements in Simpson's case to law enforcement, representatives of the DA's office, or witnesses who have testified in any investigative proceedings. Now, the court order does say, quote, the court shall entertain reasonable requests to modify this order as the need arises. And Julie, Brad Simpson remains behind bars right now, facing life in prison if convicted. He does have a bond modification hearing on December 19th.
Ooh, I'd be surprised if he gets out. Cody, let's bring in to talk some more about this Franz Borghardt, our attorney guest. He is standing by. Franz, let's start with the gag order. Do you think this is a good idea that the court has imposed this on this case?
I think it's a good idea in so much as it protects both sides. Seldom do we have gag orders that it really, quote unquote, prejudices someone. It allows the jury not to be tainted by statements by either the prosecutor or the defense. So I don't ever have a problem with gag orders. However, as someone who sometimes tries cases in the media, full disclosure, I like to be able to talk to the media. I like to be able to advocate for my client and to give my view on why I think my client may be innocent or not guilty of the charges. So, of course, I fight gag orders if I can when it doesn't benefit me. But in this case, it is probably a very good thing.
Sure, and the media loves you, Franz, by the way, just as an aside. The media loves you. Keep talking to the media, Franz, when you can. And great points you made here. And I keep thinking, as we're talking about the gag order with this case, Cody, I keep thinking about how Brad Simpson hasn't said anything. This guy hasn't said anything helpful to find his wife. It boils my blood. Would you kind of refresh our memories on that, please?
Yeah, he's absolutely said nothing. You hit the nail right on the head. And you know, regarding the case, I was in San Antonio and walked through that police affidavit of those locations that he went on the day after his wife allegedly went missing, and he was all over town. He was 45 minutes away from home. He was at a Home Depot asking a random stranger where the nearest dump was, and we also found out that Suzanne Simpson's DNA was found on an electric handsaw belonging to Brad that he tried to conceal. Now, we don't know what was done with that handsaw. You know, details about that haven't come out, but unfortunately, we may have an idea of what could have happened in the hours after she disappeared. I mean, he was at Home Depot buying cement, buying heavy-duty trash bags. I mean, there's just a mountain of evidence that police say they have against this guy, and he said nothing. And you would imagine that the mother of your 4 kids, the woman that you've been married to, you would somewhat care about trying to find her body.
Right. And the question that was coming to my mind as you were talking, Cody, is could she have been dismembered?
You know,
that's a very
really
valid, upsetting question, but it will become a legal one if that was the case, if they locate her body. So, Cody, to this date, they have not located Suzanne.
She's still not found, unfortunately. And as I said, you know, miles away from their home. So he was very much so out of the way. And the real egregious part of this, Julie, the day that all of this was going on, he dropped their 5-year-old daughter off at kindergarten, went wherever he all around town, and then picked her up from school afterwards that same day. You know, and her, unbeknownst to her, what's going on, allegedly going on.
This is really, really sinister, upsetting stuff. So now with this gag order, we know that that's been imposed, and you noted in your report, Cody, that on December 19th, Brad Simpson's going to be back in court for a bond modification hearing. You know, I don't know how this guy thinks he's going to get a bond when he's got a murder charge. His wife's still missing. Franz Borghardt, what do you say about this, please?
Well, so it never hurts to try. And I think if I were defending him, I would start emphasizing that, yeah, we allow for murders without bodies, but how do we really know there has been a murder? And that would be one of the routes I would go. Now, I say that with a straight face because we all know that we have this concept in the law called corpus delicti, and that you can have a murder without, quote unquote, having a body, as long as the facts and circumstances would suggest what? That the person was murdered. So, you know, you never hurt trying to get a bond. And even if he gets a bond, it may be such a ridiculously high bond that it's almost like not having a bond.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, something like $5 million bond for that guy. If I was that judge, it'd be no bond, but I'm not that judge. So we'll see what happens. Maybe when I retire from this job, I'll become a magistrate and set bond. Cody Thomas, so tell me, what else is next in terms of, do we have any idea yet when we may have a trial happening here? Has any firm date been set?
No firm date has been set. The next court date is that December 19th hearing, but as far as that, we could be looking at next year, late next year, even early 2026, I would imagine.
Wow, wow. And the family just devastated at the loss. Suzanne, a beloved mother, a realtor as well, from what I understand, a really successful career she had. It's just horrible what's occurred here. We'll keep following it. Cody, I'm sure you're going to be going back to Texas to do more reporting. Thank you for joining us in the studio. Franz Borghardt, always love your insight and expertise. Thank you for coming on Opening Statements this morning. And friends, that is all for this episode of Opening Statements. Guess what? You can watch it again if you want. You can share the episodes. Did you know that every day we put the shows up for you on courttv.com. Click on the shows tab right there. We got it circled in red. That's how you can watch it or share it with your friend.